Comrades and friends, welcome to the program Global Weekly News, serial number 169. First item, climate change, Trump not bothered about. Since the start of the second term, Donald Trump has implemented unprecedented changes to environmental policy in the United States, deregulating and removing historic protections. In just 8 months in office, Trump withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord, moved to open Alaskan wilderness to oil drilling and set plans to begin deep sea mining in US and international waters, moved to roll back the Environmental Protection Agency's scientific basis for regulating greenhouse gases, slashed clean energy investments, moved to repeal pollution limits on fossil fuel power plants, and had the Environmental Protection Agency launch the biggest deregulatory action in US history. The US public had until September 15 to submit comments on Environment Protection Agency's proposal to repeal the endangerment finding, the key legal foundation for regulating greenhouse gas emissions that drive climate change. This move could serve to roll back almost all limits on climate pollution in the US. If Trump's Environmental Protection Agency is successful in repealing the endangerment finding, it would be a severe setback to efforts to curb global temperature increases. The US has historically been the world's largest contributor to the greenhouse gases that have caused global warming. In June, the Environmental Protection Agency also announced that it would put forward a proposal to eliminate all greenhouse gas emissions limits on the power sector. EPA Administrator Zeldin claimed that greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuel power plants do not contribute significantly to dangerous air pollution. In response, climate scientist G.K. Housefather said, "This is the scientific equivalent to saying that smoking does not cause lung cancer." The fossil fuel industry donors who funded Donald Trump's bid for the presidency in 2024 are already reaping the benefits. Trump allowed fossil fuel giant Energy Transfer Partners to move forward with a long-planned project. Energy Transfer Partners and its Chief Executive Officer, Kelly Warren, donated $2.5 crore to Trump's main super political action committee since he took office, even though the president legally cannot run for a third term. As fossil fuel companies reap profits, extreme weather events have become more common in the US. Just this year, a flash flood in Texas, ranked as one of the deadliest in US history, costing at least 135 lives, including 35 children. Hurricanes Milton and Helene last year devastated southeastern America. Second item, comrades, Panama is losing its sovereignty. The Memorandum of Understanding signed in April 2025 by President Jose Raul Mulino of Panama and the US government is the instrument that formalizes the return of US troops to Panamanian soil, as it grants the US military the right to restore 3 military bases on Panamanian territory. According to Panamanian grassroots movements, this memorandum flagrantly violates the 1977 Panama Canal Permanent Neutrality Treaty. Leader of the National Union of Industrial Construction and Allied Workers, Suntrax stated that the notorious traitors in Panama have once again rolled back not only our right to self-determination and sovereignty, and they have surrendered to the designs of Trump. Popular movements in Panama have described it as treason. Treason means against the interests of the nation. For several months, movements, organizations and unions have been mobilizing against the Panamanian government and carrying out various protests. Jose Mulino's response was to discredit and criminalize the protests. There are 25 missing persons who have not returned to their homes. There have been 311 illegal arrests with 108 reports of torture, rape and sexual abuse. Women have been raped and their heads shaved, and men have broken ribs and arms. Trump's narrative is that he claimed that the Communist Party of China owned the canal, Panama Canal, operated two important ports, and that those ports could be converted into Chinese military bases, and that this geopolitically endangered U.S. interests in Panama. Under this narrative, Trump has intensified aggression and pressure on the Panamanian territory. U.S. has claimed to fight drug trafficking and organized crimes. United Nations has already issued an official statement to the Mulino government for excessive use of force, torture and violence against the women and indigenous peoples. The Latin American United Movement, ALBA, has affirmed that we are facing a situation in which the decadent empire is losing strength with the BRICS and China, and is trying to consolidate what they considered as their backyard. Third item, comrades, we go to Global Summit Flotilla on its final leg of voyage to Gaza. The Global Summit Flotilla has launched the final leg of its journey to Gaza with at least 40 boats expected to converge in the Mediterranean, and after deporting ports in Tunisia, Italy and Greece. The fleet includes the Alma and the family boat, both of which suffered drone attacks earlier this month while docked at Sitibau port. The flotilla team said that they remain steadfast and united. They will continue to sail to break the seas, to end the genocide and to stand with Palestine. The flotilla coalition, in anticipation of increasingly hostile conditions, they had made a difficult decision to reduce the participant capacity on several vessels departing to Gaza. Calls for solidarity is resonating across Europe. In Italy, thousands of demonstrators in cities including Naples and Rome pledging to bring the country to a halt if Israel assaults or blocks the flotilla. The USB Union of Italy announced a general strike for 22nd September in support of the mission. The left party confirmed that it will join strike activities, stating that thousands would block the country and on 4th October march in Rome to break Italy's complicity with Israel's genocide. Conscious of the threats faced by the flotilla, foreign ministers from more than a dozen countries, including Brazil, Colombia, Indonesia, Malaysia and South Africa, issued a joint statement supportive of the initiative of the flotilla. Since the early hours of 17th September, dozens of people have been killed in the ground offensive launched against Gaza City by Israel. Comrades, now we go to Argentina. Fourth item, students, teachers and workers march in protest against the government of Javier Milei of Argentina. Tens of thousands of students, teachers and workers will march in the streets in cities across Argentina on 17th September for the Federal University March. The national mobilization was called for by the Argentine University Federation, the TU Front, and the National Inter-University Council, and numerous progressive groups and trade union fronts have pledged support and that they will join them on the streets. This will be third mass protest to defend university funding against Argentine President Javier Milei's austerity policies. On September 10, 2025, Milei vetoed the university financing law, which was set to increase funding for Argentina's public universities. The university financing law was approved by the Senate on 22nd August 2025 and was intended to adjust teaching and non-teaching salaries in line with inflation, provide funds for infrastructure, scholarships, strategic careers, and academic activities, and to progressively increase the university budget from 1% of GDP in 2026 to 1.5% of GDP in 2031. Milei vetoed the law in its entirety. The presidents of University of Buenos Aires called for participation in the demonstrations. This law is in favor of everyone, so we appeal to the sensitivity of our people to continue supporting in this demand. Without education, without health, and without science, there is no possible development. There is no future for the country. The last chance for the university financing law depends on the two chambers of Congress, which could, in theory, overturn the presidential veto with a two-thirds majority vote from those present. The student community will try to pressure more MPs to support overturning the veto. On 11th September 2025, Javier Milei vetoed the Pediatric Health and National Health Residences Emergency Law, which declared a 2-year state of emergency in pediatric health care, children's health care, and ordered the government to immediately allocate resources, restore public sector salaries, and equalize the remuneration of pediatric care staff and resident doctors. The law was passed in August 2025 and was mainly promoted by doctors at the Garrahan Hospital in Buenos Aires. The vetoes come amidst declining support for the government, as demonstrated in the recent legislative elections in Buenos Aires, where the ruling party suffered a clear electoral defeat. In addition, popular discontent was intensified by the corruption scandal involving Karina Milei, following the release of audio recordings linking her to a bribery scheme related to the purchase of overpriced medicines for people with disabilities. Fifth item, comrades. China warns of retaliation as United States pushes 100% tariffs for importing Russian oil. Last week, US President Donald Trump demanded that his European allies impose a 100% tariff against China and India for importing oil from Russia. Trump has accused China and India of funding the war in Ukraine by importing oil from Russia. In response, China reiterated that no amount of external pressure or coercion will make it compromise its sovereignty, security, and development interests, and warned that if its rights and interests are harmed, it will resolutely take countermeasures to safeguard them. On 13th September, Trump demanded NATO countries halt oil imports from Russia. Some European countries and United States allies continue to import Russian gas and oil. Turkey, a member of NATO, is the third largest importer of Russian oil after China and India. Lin Jian, spokesperson of the Ministry of Chinese Foreign Affairs, denied that China supports the war in Ukraine in any way, claiming that his country's trade with Russia follows WTO rules and market principles and does not target any third country. He reiterated that dialogue and negotiations are the only way out of the crisis. Meanwhile, following Trump's pressure, the Group 7 countries, G7 countries, held a meeting to discuss new sanctions on Russia and possible tariffs on countries it blames for enabling the war in Ukraine. The United States has already imposed a 25% additional tariff on India for importing Russian oil. India imported around 8.8 crore tons of oil from Russia last year, amounting to 35% of its total energy needs. India resells most of the imported Russian oil to other countries, mostly in Europe. However, the US has refrained from imposing similar tariffs on China, which imported over 10 crore tons of crude oil from Russia, around 20% of its annual needs last year. Bilateral trade talks with China in Madrid of Spain are going on. US and China are bilaterally talking with each other in Madrid, Spain. The talks are focused on resolving outstanding issues between the two countries, including the issue of TikTok. Li Chenggong, China's international trade representative with the Ministry of Commerce, told the media that US recognizes that a stable China-US economic and trade relationship is of great significance to both countries and also has a major impact on global economic stability. Sixth item, comrades. Africa's largest hydroelectric dam in Ethiopia. Ethiopia has inaugurated the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, Africa's largest hydroelectric project, in a move hailed at home as a triumph of self-reliance. The $500 crore mega project on the Blue Nile, one of the Nile's two main tributaries, was opened on 9 September. Stretching 1.8 kilometers wide and rising 145 meters tall, the dam is designed to generate 5,150 megawatts of electricity, more than doubling the present Ethiopia's capacity, and rivaling major dams like the Aswan High Dam in Egypt and the Inga dams in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ethiopia's population is 10 crore, but it continues to face severe electricity shortages. As of 22-23, about 55% of the population only had access to electricity. The project was largely financed by Ethiopia itself and a 2013 China loan of $120 crore. Seventh item, comrades. Marco Rubio visits Israel. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in the occupied city of Jerusalem on 14th September to discuss Israel's plans for ending its ongoing genocidal aggression on Gaza after it ruined the ceasefire talks with its assault on Qatar last week. After a meeting with Marco Rubio on 15th September, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did not rule out launching further airstrikes on Hamas operatives in foreign sovereign countries in the region. On 13th September, the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation held an emergency summit to address the Israeli illegal attack on Qatar. On 12th September, United Nations General Assembly endorsed the New York Declaration on the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and implementation of the two-state solution. A total of 142 out of 193 member countries of United Nations General Assembly 142 voted in favor of the resolution backing the declaration. 10 states, including Israel, opposed, voted against, and 12 abstained. Criticizing the decisions, Israel's Foreign Affairs Ministry described the General Assembly in a post on X as a political circus that is detached from reality. There is not a single mention that Hamas is a terrorist organization. Lastly, comrades, Ecuador's right-wing president, Daniel Noboa, announced that he will eliminate the state subsidy for diesel fuel. Against this, massive protests will break out soon. Thank you, comrades. Lal Salam. See you next week.